What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. We're wishing you all happy holidays. Hope you had a very Merry Christmas. I know that the Giants disappointed many of you on Christmas Day. They lost yesterday to the Philadelphia Eagles 33-25. To some of you, that was a present because the Giants did move up to 5th overall in the draft order. But of course, to others, it was a very disappointing result for the New York Giants as this loss officially eliminated them from the playoffs. The Giants season is over. There is no room for improvement here at 5-10. 2 games left to play on the schedule. Got the LA Rams on New Year's Eve, and then of course back to playing the Philadelphia Eagles to close out the season. Very unlikely that the Giants pick up one of those 2 wins in those games. It's been a rough year for us Giants fans, but it's officially over now. There's no more hope for the playoffs. Is it time to join the tank? What do we do here, right? And so that was an interesting game yesterday, though. The Giants had a chance. They made it competitive. They played all the way to the final play of the game, and there are some positives to take away from it, but I will say I'm kind of tired of the moral victories for the New York Giants. I hate saying, well, we played well at spurts against the Eagles. We put in a good effort. We made it competitive against a really good Philadelphia Eagles team. I hate doing that, man. I want to beat the Eagles. I can't stand this team. I can't stand the Philadelphia Eagles and the way that they've beaten up on the New York Giants for seemingly a decade now. So I hope that going forward, New Year's resolution for the New York Giants 2024, beat the goddamn Philadelphia Eagles. Become good enough, close that gap, and stop being competitive with your division rivals and saying, oh, we put in a good effort. Start beating those division rivals. I want to beat the Cowboys. I want to beat the Eagles. Starting this off with a little bit of a rant and a tangent, but I'm disappointed by the Giants yesterday. Again, I'm proud of the effort, right? We could be happy about the moral victory. They put in a good effort against the Eagles, but ultimately, once again, they lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's been the trend for years and years. They just can't beat this team, and it is frustrating, and now it's culminated in another playoff elimination. The New York Giants season is over, so it is time to start looking ahead to the upcoming offseason, looking ahead to the NFL draft, and our content's probably going to shift a lot towards our Jaden Daniels propaganda going forward, which I know Alex is really excited about, but the New York Giants officially eliminated from the playoffs. Not feeling too good about it, but I am feeling good because I had a whole lot of cookies and a really good Christmas day. But Alex, before we dive into all of this, how are you doing today, my friend? How are you feeling about the New York Giants finally being eliminated from the playoffs? And how excited are you to start to pump on this Jaden Daniels bandwagon train?
Well, I'm fully on the Jaden Daniels bandwagon train. This is a player who, I saw a really good, actually, kind of example of what Jaden Daniels could be for the Giants, and I think it was Dan Schneier on Twitter or something like that was saying that teams can't prepare for Lamar Jackson. If you guys watched that game last night, Lamar Jackson dominated. You can't prepare for a player like that with his legs and his arm and his mobility and his pocket presence. You can't do it. The only guy that actually managed to pull it off was Wink Martindale last year, and go figure, he was the defensive coordinator for multiple seasons working against Lamar. He was the only one that figured it out. You can't do it. It's impossible. If Jaden Daniels can even be a semblance of what Lamar Jackson is for the Ravens, in terms of running the football, navigating the pocket, throwing the football, the Giants should draft this kid, and it would change everything. Look, I'm not going to dive into this. We've talked about it. We'll dive into more film stuff in the offseason when we actually get there. But the Giants should have beat that Eagles team yesterday. We didn't get blown out. We were actually competitive, and honestly, it's much more than I expected. I thought we were going to get absolutely crushed. And here's the truth. If the Giants were half competent, if we were even slightly competent, we would have won that game. If our quarterback situation was slightly freaking okay, we would have won that football game. Our offensive line, still problematic. However, Tyrod Taylor missed 2 touchdown throws. He noodle-armed that one to Darren Waller. He had that gorgeous throw to Darius Slayton, but I'm not going to forget about the one that should have been an easy completion to Darren Waller. Also, it won me a bet. Freaking pissed me off. And then at the same time, you have Tommy DeVito, who got benched at halftime because the team needed a spark. You know what I mean? And look, Tommy DeVito, I'm not going to throw him under the bus because the truth is he's an undrafted guy of Illinois in Philly. The odds were stacked against him from the get-go. There's still plenty of potential there. There's still plenty of hope he can turn into a competent backup, and I think we can all agree, that's fine. We're all projecting him to be a competent backup. That's more than what we expected out of him. That does, the Giants need to go. And for the rest of the season, I think you just keep running with Tommy DeVito personally. The Giants are out of playoff contention. At this point, it's about developing your youth. Not about tanking, not about winning games. It's about developing your young talent. It's about getting more reps to Jordan Riley. It's about getting more reps to Deontay Banks, Trey Hawkins, getting more reps to guys like, I don't know, like Wandale, feeding him the ball, Jalen Hyatt, giving him more opportunities to catch the football. This is where the Giants should be looking in the next 2 games. Getting the ball into their hands of the younger players who actually have futures here. There's a reason Paris Campbell has been sitting on the bench the last couple weeks as an inactive. He gets a $100K bonus for every game he's active. Giants are like, we don't really want to pay that, man. Like, we don't really want to pay you $100K a game to not do anything for us because we are looking toward our youth. So, that being said, that's really what the next couple games is about. The Giants could have beat the Eagles. The Eagles are actually phonies. I think they're not that good. I think they're, everyone will look at, that was the Jalen Hurts that we saw. No, Jalen Hurts had a great game when Deontay Banks left the game because he got hurt and he was locking A.J. Brown down. Like, Banks were freaking closed on Mondays too now. Deontay Banks was actually on fire. The guy, A.J. Brown, had 2 catches for like 7 yards at halftime. Comes on in the second half and destroys Adoree Jackson. Just completely. Yes, the pick 6 Adoree Jackson had. That was a great play. Give him the credit there. But he was eaten alive by A.J. Brown the entire second half. And Banks, they barely even threw his way. Like, Banks is going to be a star, man. The guy's going to be a star. And shout out to Anthony for calling out that for a couple of months ago during the draft in 2023. This is exciting for us Giants fans to have a CB1, a lockdown corner who could be something real special. But then again, we have a lot of needs, my friends, and we need to be figuring out what these young players can do to solve those needs. Jordan Riley could be that guy next to Dexter Lawrence long-term. Personally, I think that's somewhat realistic. I'd like to see more of Trey Hawkins. Cordell Flott's another player who needs to get more opportunities. He's been getting a lot of reps lately. But yes, like I said, that was a winnable game yesterday. Also, screw the refs. I know, I posted that clip of JMS, John Michael Schmitz, when that false start. I thought that was complete nonsense. Yes, they're cracking down on some of those type of plays, but I thought it was like it happened the whole game. Like, this is happening all game long. Why are you waiting until a key moment to call that play? If you're going to do it, call it in the first quarter when it doesn't matter. Call it or let JMS know, hey, like, we notice you're doing this. Like, just like they say for receivers. Like, usually they won't call those offsides if you check with the ref. If you're JMS, ref got to tell him, like, hey, man, like, we notice you're doing this. Like, just keep it a little bit simpler. Like, don't do such a quick head nod or whatever it might be. And then you fix it. You solve it. You don't wait until the fourth quarter in a peak moment of the game to call that penalty. It just makes it look like they're rigging it, man. And personally, I thought it was ridiculous. A lot of people did. It went viral. Everyone's freaked out about it. And it's just total nonsense to me. We see this over and over again. You're in Philly. Philly's getting home calls. We're in Dallas. They're getting home calls. It's just like, I get home field advantage, but I feel like the Giants don't get calls in MetLife ever. It just, I don't know, it pisses me off personally. I think it's nonsense. That was a bullshit call. I think you guys will probably agree with that. And the Giants could have won that game. Eagles did not play that well. Their defense is a liability. And the fact that we couldn't even throw the football against the number 28 ranked defense in passing, in coverage, is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. If we could throw the freaking football against that defense and we had a quarterback and we could actually operate a functioning offense, we would have won that game and it wouldn't have been a problem. We would have went into freaking Philadelphia, beat their ass, and walked out with a win if our quarterback situation was better. That's why I'm like, we need to draft a quarterback. Daniel Jones isn't getting it done, my friends. I personally don't want to put my chips in on a guy coming off an ACL tear, one injury away from his career ending. That's a bad idea. We've talked about this. Some people disagree. That's totally fine. I respect your opinion. I hope you respect mine as well, thinking that, we could go after a guy with legitimate upside that will give us a reason to watch a team that struggles. I could watch the Giants struggle if our quarterback is improving and we're actually building something. But if we're just going to stay the same and things are only going to get worse, things are not going to get better, and I'm going to have to watch this team and we're going to struggle, it just pains me to watch it. It's just, we're going nowhere fast. That's how it feels right now. We need something to actually lean into. Anthony, looking at what the next couple of games represents for you, and I saw you nodding your head when I mentioned Jalen Hyatt. What do you think needs to happen over the next couple of weeks as we kind of wind this season down?
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to dive into next. I wanted to mention Jalen Hyatt. Where was he? He was on the field for only, I think, 12 snaps, 15 snaps, 0 targets. what are we doing here, right? Like, what are the New York Giants doing? Because I like the point that you made. There's 2 games left. Let's get these young guys on the field. That's why you're in favor of starting Tommy DeVito. That's why I'm in favor of starting Tommy DeVito. Let's get some of these young guys out there on the field, get as much experience as we can for them before the season comes to a close, and also get as much film on these guys as we can get before the season comes to a close. Joe Schoen and his front office are going to have to reevaluate the roster like they do every offseason. You always have the front office collect the film on their own players, evaluate that first to identify weaknesses, what they could change for the next season, and then go into free agency and the draft, collect film on those guys, and target where they can kind of improve the roster. But they need film on their own players first and foremost. They need some film on Jalen Hyatt. Him being out on the field for only 15 snaps does nobody any favors. It doesn't allow Jalen Hyatt to develop. It doesn't allow Joe Schoen to go into the offseason and have a clear-cut plan for what they're going to do at the wide receiver position. We know that they need to improve it, but how can they improve it accordingly without knowing what they actually have in Jalen Hyatt, without having enough film on him to make a determination on where he's going to fit into their offensive game plan and what role he's going to play? So I'm confused by what the Giants are doing here. They got a young guy like Daniel Bellinger out on the field yesterday. That was good. He got 5 targets. He got really involved in the game plan. But Wan'Dale Robinson, 7 targets. He always gets a ton of targets, 3 receptions. This is a guy that needs more playing time, more targets, like more involvement as well. All of these younger players need to be on the field, in my opinion. Even a guy like Eric Gray, like this season is lost. Saquon Barkley has played a lot this year. You know what you have in him. He's your leader. He's your best offensive playmaker. We know what we have in him. I get last night they needed Saquon out there. They were trying to win a competitive rivalry game. But this next week against Los Angeles, it's a very meaningless game. Does it really kill you to put Eric Gray out on the field for 5 handoffs just to get a little film on him, just to get him a little bit more game experience? I read a quote from Eric Gray actually earlier this week where he was saying there are some things in a game that you can't simulate in practice. You just can't practice for it. I need some game reps. He basically said that. And he said that the Giants coach and staff is planning on getting him some game reps. He didn't get a whole lot. You're barely seeing any Eric Gray. We saw a little bit of Matt Breida. What is Matt Breida giving you in the future for this team? You didn't see a single handoff go to the way of Eric Gray. Not even one to Matt Breida. Matt Breida was out there for a couple of receptions that he had. I mean, I don't understand what the Giants' game plan is in this regard. Like, what are they doing with the development of their young players? That's something that confuses me. I don't see the vision here, and I think it's something over these final 2 weeks, now that the Giants are officially eliminated from playoff contention. Like you said, Alex, it's time to see what we have in some of these young guys. So instead of having the WR1 of the game be Daniel Bellinger, I got to see Jalen Hyatt for a game get his chance. I like seeing Daniel Bellinger get his targets. I like seeing him get more involved in the game plan. But it needs to be Jalen Hyatt. He needs more snaps, and he needs the reps to practice, and he also needs the film to give to Joe Schoen so in the offseason he could determine what this kid's role is going to be on the depth chart next season. So Jalen Hyatt, that's one player I need to see more of. There's many other players. Eric Gray is another. And the Giants are going to have a tough time making decisions on some of these guys because they didn't get enough playing time during their rookie seasons, during their second seasons. And honestly, a lot of players keep disappearing from the game plan, whether that's because of the game plan itself not involving them, like it is with Jalen Hyatt, or some of these players are just running cold. Kayvon Thibodeau, I don't know what's going on there, but there was a play, I think it was a 3rd and 5. DeAndre Swift gets a handoff over to the right side of the line. There's nothing there. He cuts back to the left side. Jalen Hurts runs out, blocks Kayvon Thibodeau, and it's a 1st down Philadelphia Eagles. If you're Kayvon Thibodeau and you have a quarterback running after you, Jalen Hurts running after you, bury that man into the ground and then make the stop. Do not get pushed back 5 yards by Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is a great athlete. He's strong. That's why the tush push is so great. I understand all that. He squats like 800 pounds, whatever. I don't care. You're Kayvon Thibodeau. You're an edge rusher. You're a linebacker in the NFL. If you have a quarterback running after you to make a block on a 3rd and 5 and you let that quarterback make that block, you should be benched for like 5 snaps at least. That was inexcusable for Kayvon Thibodeau, and honestly, in the past couple of weeks, we've seen some plays like that. Have I lost my confidence in Thibodeau? No. I still think he's a tremendous talent, and he's going to be for a long time for the Giants. It's been a really good year for him, but it's also been a really inconsistent year for him, and that's something that the Giants need to iron out going forward. You can't have these inconsistent moments with these players and in these big rivalry games against the Eagles. A play like that where Jalen Hurts makes a block on 3rd and 5 on Kayvon Thibodeau to get the 1st down, inexcusable. And those are the little mistakes that the Giants keep making, the moments of these games that add up and they result in all of these losses. It's not about the refs. Like, I understand there's a lot of frustration about the bad calls that the refs made towards the end of the game, but it's plays like Kayvon Thibodeau getting blocked on 3rd and 5. It's plays like Darren Waller dropping a pass. Yeah, it was deflected at the line of scrimmage, but it still hit him in both of his hands. Gotta catch it. You might have went to the house on that one. Those little moments in the games, those are the moments that good teams capitalize on. Jalen Hurts made that block. A.J. Brown makes that catch, right? That's why the Eagles win that game. That's why the other teams that keep beating the Giants win these games. Good teams, on those few plays that are really decisive, they go their way. They make those plays go their way. The Giants never make those decisive plays go their way. They always fail to capitalize on those plays. That's why this team keeps losing football games and getting eliminated from the playoffs year in and year out, and it's really disappointing to see happen. So I need to see more of this young talent go out there, and that's why I want to segue into my next point that I want to make. I disagree with the Tommy DeVito benching. Yes, the Giants needed a spark. Tyrod Taylor played well. You guys know I'm not just this big Tommy DeVito fan. He's the only player that I want to see out there. Weeks ago, I was a huge Tyrod Taylor fan, and I was advocating for Daniel Jones to be benched before he got injured. I wanted Daniel Jones benched because I thought Tyrod Taylor gave the Giants a better chance to win football games. I'm a huge Tyrod Taylor fan. I've been a fan of his since he was on the Baltimore Ravens, because I used to play a lot of Ravens, play with the Ravens a lot in Madden. I would sub out Joe Flacco and instantly put Tyrod Taylor in. I've been a huge fan of his for a long time, guys, but I don't want to see Tyrod Taylor starting these final 2 games. Love what he provides to this team. He's a good quarterback, a really great leader, and a veteran. A lot of experience there, but I'm not here for experience. Like you said, Alex, final 2 games, I'm here to see these young players compete so that we know what we have on them going into next year. Get them these developmental reps. I don't think Tommy DeVito was playing poorly yesterday. He wasn't playing good football by any means, but the Giants clearly had a game plan. Get the ball out of his hands quick, throw a lot of screens, hopefully you gain some yards after the catch. Tommy DeVito was executing that game plan. They didn't ask him to throw the ball down the field. Everything was a screen. Did he miss a couple throws downfield? Sure. So did Tyrod Taylor. I think it's marginal. Those 2 players are playing at about the same level, in my opinion. And I think that when you've got 2 quarterbacks playing at nearly the same level, but one of them is a rookie who needs some more developmental snaps, you roll with the rookie. You're getting about the same level of production, and you're getting a player that has potential to develop into something valuable in the future, because backup quarterbacks are definitely valuable commodities in the NFL. So Tyrod Taylor played well in spurts yesterday. He missed some big throws. He made that beautiful throw to Darius Slayton. Love what he provides to this team. Think he's a great player. I disagree with the Tommy DeVito benching. It's not just because I'm an Italian who loves Tommy Cutlets and the fun story and the Cutlets mania that we've witnessed. I love all that stuff. I'm biased as a Giants fan in general, but I just think that you want to see this rookie quarterback play over this 13-year NFL veteran, just so that you know whether or not you have somebody in the future to build around as your backup quarterback. So I think there needs to be more of an emphasis from this Giants coaching staff on getting those young players out there. I know that Brian Daboll said today he hasn't made a decision for these final 2 weeks on who the starting quarterback is. Honestly, I hope that he rolls with Tommy DeVito. I think Tommy DeVito's 3-game winning streak earned him the right to start out the rest of the season. Brian Daboll said as much last week before that Saints game. And I think that 2 lackluster performances from DeVito should not mean that you take away the rest of his developmental reps for the season. If you were committed to developing him and having him start these games 2 weeks ago, you should still be committed to starting and developing him in these final 2 weeks. Just because they had a tough performance against the Eagles in the first half doesn't mean you go away with that plan of developing Tommy DeVito. Still got to develop these young players, get as much film on them as you possibly can entering this offseason. So that goes for Tommy DeVito, goes for Jalen Hyatt, goes for any of these other young players on the defense as well. The Giants have a lot of youth out there. We got to see these guys on the field. So it's time to cut back some snaps on guys like Saquon Barkley. It's time to cut back snaps on guys like Dexter Lawrence, on Adoree Jackson. All these veterans who are getting this playing time, you're out of the playoffs. There's no point in starting these veterans, running them into the ground before they probably, some of them leave in free agency or they just don't get extended. You got to get these young players on the field, got to know what you have in them so you can build around them in the future. And then, of course, leading up to that number 5 overall pick, which I'm sure we're going to dive into in just a second, Alex. But I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that. Like, cutting back the snaps on guys like Saquon so you can get Eric Gray on the field. Cutting back the snaps on even guys that I really like Darius Slayton. cut back his snaps, get Jalen Hyatt on the field some more. I think that this needs to be the number one priority for the New York Giants in these final 2 weeks. Get these young players on the field, Tommy DeVito included, see what you have in them, get as much film on them as you can so you know where to build this roster in the upcoming offseason.
I mean, yeah. Look, at this point, we're not in the postseason race. The season's over for us, right? We play the Rams, and the Rams are a good football team, guys. They're probably one of the more underrated teams in the game right now in terms of playoff contention. Their offense is legit. Puka Nacua, no joke. The guy's a monster. Cooper Kupp, beast. Kyron Williams, monster. Tyler Higbee's a good player too. You even got Tutu Atwell, who's been solid lately. So, Stafford. Look, the Rams are going to dog walk us most likely, and then we play the Eagles again, the final game of the season, and that'll be at MetLife, so it'll be interesting. But right now, I feel more so like development is ideal. I said it before I handed it off to you. Getting these younger players time now is only a good thing. There is no reason anyone that is going to be off this team next year should be playing. And for what it's worth, if we draft another quarterback, I'm okay with keeping Saquon on the franchise tag. I think that you tag him again. You keep him for next season. I think that, look, this offense really isn't anything without Saquon. Like, you watched yesterday, this team couldn't move the ball without him. It was that bad. It was a couple of throws, that one deep one to Darren Waller and the one deep one to Darius Slay. That was the only things that really happened, and Wandale had a couple of nice catches. But for the most part, it was the Saquon Barkley show. He was running the football. He was making moves. He converted 2 fourth downs until Mike Kafka decided to run the exact same play for a third consecutive time on 4th down. What do you know? He gets stopped because he didn't block Hassan Reddick, one of the best pass rushers in football. That's coaching, man. That's coaching. It's a lack of discipline, a lack of understanding with the scheme, a lack of coaching. It's just bad. I think we should keep Saquon. He's an important piece into our locker room. And he'll end up basically getting the 2-year. He'll end up, if you tag him again, he ends up getting the long-term deal and guaranteed money that he wanted anyway. So I think it's right to do that. So I do think that that's probably the direction we'll go, especially if we draft another quarterback, because I think Jaden Daniels and Saquon would be awesome. It'd be such a cool dynamic duo to watch, personally. I think that would be, like, even if Jaden Daniels or even Caleb Williams or Drake May, rookie quarterbacks, I still think that they're significantly better than anything that we've had in the recent memory. So I do think that maybe last year's, Daniel Jones is better because of the running game, because of the over 700 yards on the ground. But I think Jaden Daniels could replicate that and then some, most likely. So we'll see how it goes. A lot of people are concerned about his frame, and that's definitely something that we will talk about. A little bit more weights would definitely do him a little bit of good, in my opinion. Or just protecting his body, sliding, getting down on the ground, don't take those big hits. Really navigating the pocket is going to be the most important piece of his game in terms of, staying in the pocket, making sure you can throw the football. Look, if you watch the Ravens game last night, Anthony, I know you can attest to this. There were times when the Ravens offensive line let pressure in instantly. You're not going to stop Chase Young and Nick Bosa and, some of those elite pass rushers that the 49ers have. You're not going to stop them. Those guys were in the backfield. But the way that Lamar navigates the pocket and buys himself time is what makes him so dangerous. He can turn a pass protection, like destructive pass protection rep, into a 50-yard gain on his legs or a 50-yard throw downfield. Jaden Daniels has that same ability, and that's why I'm so excited about him, because he can navigate the pocket. He's really, really good peripheral vision and really good feeling around him. I'm excited for that to translate. But, right now, we got to lean on the youngsters, get them the football, see what they've got, get their development as the focal point of this offense and defense, because, the season's over. So might as well look to the future in this instance. I do agree with you on that front.
Yeah, and so I think it's a good time now. Let's talk a little bit about the future, right? We've got these 2 games left. You've got the Rams. You've got the Eagles again. It's very likely that the New York Giants end their season with just the 5 wins that they currently have. And so the Giants now have a 72% chance, according to ESPN Analytics, of landing a top 5 pick in the upcoming draft. So you all know where we stand. We're on this train. We're pushing for the quarterback. We think that the New York Giants should draft a quarterback. I tweeted about it today. I said, what would you do if you were making the pick? And I want to see some comments down below in the comment section. If today was April 25th, the New York Giants held the 5th overall pick, you only know what you know right now. What's your move here? You drafted quarterback, you drafted receiver. What is it? I think that it's going to be a really interesting offseason. But again, I think that it's important that the Giants get as much film on these young guys as they can before we enter the draft, before we enter free agency. We got to evaluate this roster to the fullest extent. And right now, I think having a guy like Adoree Jackson on the field, while he made a great play yesterday, pick six, first touchdown of his career, it was awesome. And it put the Giants in position to win that game for a second. You're not getting much out of him in the future. Maybe you extend him for another year on a cheap contract to be a veteran corner. But let's be real, Adoree Jackson got picked apart for the majority of the season. You don't need to see more reps from him. What you do need to see, more reps from Trey Hawkins. You need to see how he plays in these final couple games. Get some more film on him. Get him some more experience. Trey Hawkins lining up against a guy like a Puka Nacua or a Cooper Kupp next week, that gives him a lot of valuable experience. Yeah, he's going to fail. He's going to get beat. He might get torched for 300 yards. Who knows? But that's important for him. He'll learn from that. He will learn how to play better football because of that. Sometimes you got to get beat up and punched in the mouth. I agree that sometimes it's not good to get these young players on the field too soon. Might stunt their growth, but it's the end of their rookie season. It's time to see how they have what they've learned from week 1 to now week 17. If you don't see any improvements on their film from week 1 versus their film in week 17, then you probably know you're not building around them for the future. But you got to get some reps on them from week 17 on film so you can see how they've developed throughout the course of their rookie season and know what you want to do with them going into the offseason. So it's going to be a really interesting one. Alex, I'm going to throw that over to you and talk about the future of this team, right? Because playoff elimination is here. 2 weeks left to play. I know we're talking about we want to see some developmental guys for the rest of the season, but let's talk about some of these offseason needs for the Giants. Like, kind of how do you stack them up? How do you rank them? I know quarterback is paramount for us. We think franchise quarterback is the number one need, but even outside of that, I know we're going to talk a lot about the quarterbacks all offseason long. Giants fans or listeners of the show, they know we want quarterback at the 5th overall pick or the 3rd overall pick, wherever we land, right? But where else does this team need to improve? Offensive line is one you think of. Another receiver, sure. But where do you see the priorities lying here? Like if you're Joe Schoen and you're sitting in that GM chair, quarterback number one, but then after that, like what are the other boxes to check going into this offseason? How do you prioritize this team's needs?
It's a good question. Obviously, like you said, quarterback's paramount. That's number one. It always will be until we find the guy. I'd say we desperately need a right tackle right now. I'd say that I do not trust Evan Neal at all. I think right tackle is going to be a huge need. If you walk into next season with Andrew Thomas, a good enough right tackle, JMS, Ben Bredesen, you bring back Justin Pugh on a reserve deal, could just be a plug and play guy if you need him, and then a good guard, like maybe you move Evan Neal to guard and bring in a free agent. I don't know. Or you draft someone in the second round to develop there. You still get Josh Azudu back. You can see how things develop. Marcus McKethan, obviously, he's been hurt. So, you work it out there. You have some depth, some youth guys that you can continue their development. Most imperative, though, is the need for a better coach. We need a much better coach, guys. And it's not even, it's to the importance that I can't even verbally say it. I can't even say it. You guys know this. We need better coaching on the offensive line. So I'd say yes, offensive line's number one priority, and it will continue to be so, or number two behind the quarterback right now, but it'll continue to be one of the biggest priorities until we figure it out. The third one is I think we need another pass rusher. I don't trust Azeez Ojulari to stay healthy. Kayvon Thibodeau's been great this year, a little bit inconsistent at times, but very, very good player that I think is going to be, once he figures it out in terms of consistency, he's going to be really freaking good for a long time. I would love to, and we were just talking about this before the episode started, Anthony. There's a lot of really good pass rushers in free agency this upcoming year. A lot. We're talking 7, 8, 9, even 10 good pass rushers the Giants can go after. 4 or 5 of them are straight up elite. Daniel Hunter, Brian Burns, Josh Allen. There are some really good players this upcoming year in free agency. So, Giants will have a chance to go out and get one of those guys. And then, next on the docket, CB2, whether it's Adoree Jackson, whether it's somebody else, there's a couple guys available, like Sean Murphy-Bunting's one of them, just got it popped into my head. There's some really, really deep cornerback options in the market this upcoming year as well. So pass rusher and cornerback, plenty to choose from. After that, I would honestly, I am kind of against the idea of bringing back Darren Waller. I know you have your thoughts and ideas about bringing him back. I know, there's a reason you would bring him back. Personally, I think that I would rather go in the direction of a receiver, and I think that the The 51 mil over 3 years is a little bit too expensive for my taste. But, you could justify it. I just think the injury-prone nature of his game is very concerning to me at this point in time. But, teach their own. It really, if we kept him, I'd be like, all right, like, I guess it's good to have him. But if we let him go, I'd be like, all right, like, we could spend the money elsewhere, one of those scenarios. But I say receiver is another one that's up there pretty high. I think we're going to draft a guy in the second round. I think you probably agree with that as well. There's some really great talent in the second round. This is a really deep receiver class. So that's another place I would look to add more support if possible. Defensively, I like, maybe also Xavier McKinney. Who knows what happens at free safety for the Giants. Man, there's a lot of needs, to say the least. There's a lot of needs. We got to hit the draft big this year, man. Like, we really have to kick ass in the draft. We need to get ourselves a quarterback, a receiver, and maybe a developmental pass rusher or offensive lineman in the second round. So that's given we don't trade up in the first round to begin with. So, it's going to be difficult to navigate this offseason. Joe Shane, this is where you turn it around, man. Like, this offseason is it. If you are going to win here, if you're going to succeed here, it's going to be with a top 5 pick and a really good quarterback class. This is where it starts. This is where you turn the organization around. This is his last chance. You know what I mean? If he whiffs on this, the Giants have no choice. They're going to end up moving on from him after next year. Like, that would be I'd put my money on that. If they whiff on this draft class, it's done. They're gone. So he knows how much rides on this. He knows drafting a quarterback saves him some time, buys him some time. Him and Dable, because they're tied together. They came in together, they're leaving together too. That's my personal opinion. So, I think that this offseason is really important. They know the importance. They know that leaning on Daniel Jones is a massive risk. And it also means that their jobs are at risk. So I think they're going to take the easy decision here, and they're going to go quarterback. A lot of people think that that's not true. They think there's a low chance of it because apparently what general managers say halfway through the season means it is exactly what they're going to do in the draft. Have you guys ever heard a general manager tell you what they're going to do in the draft? Ever? No. So why the hell do people think that just Joe Shane said that when Daniel Jones is healthy, he's going to be the quarterback? Why does anyone think that that's actually what's going to happen? Like, he said a very vague comment saying when he's healthy, he'll be the starting quarterback. He didn't say unless we draft somebody, unless this changes, unless that happens. Who knows? Maybe Daniel Jones comes back and plays, and they develop a quarterback like Jaden Daniels for a year and have him sit and learn and then take over. There's so much that could happen. Let's not take the guy who's supposed to lie to us about his draft plans seriously when he tells us about the quarterback position. Okay, let's kind of like not take that really to heart. A lot's going to unfold, but yeah, that's kind of my take right now. There's a lot to obviously go forward. There's a lot of needs this team needs to kind of say it twice. Like, this team needs a lot, and it starts with getting a quarterback that we can build around, in my opinion.
For me too. I mean, if I'm going with my priority list early, of course, working priority list, it's a long time before the offseason really even kicks off and before we get to the roster construction portion of the offseason. But early priorities for me, franchise quarterback is always number one. Number two for me, it is definitely going to be finding an elite playmaker. And it's only because this draft class is so loaded with them. I just think when you're looking at these mock drafts, you're looking at these prospect boards, this wide receiver class is so loaded and so talented, and I would really love to see the Giants capitalize on that. Draft a receiver in the first 3 rounds, and you've got a really good chance of getting the WR1 in this year's class because it's that loaded with talent. So I want to see them get a quarterback, pair it with a nice receiver, address the offensive line however they can, and hopefully build a competent offense because I think that this defense is pretty solid. Missing a few pieces, absolutely. Needs another pass rusher, like you said, Alex, but really this defense has good talent on it. It's the offense. You find some more talent there. You coach this thing up right. I think the Giants can be competitive next year. I really hope so. I'm sick and tired of being eliminated before the season's end. Constantly just, it's November and we're playing meaningless games. It's December, we're playing meaningless games. I want to play some meaningful games in January again, like we did last year. That was a lot of fun. But it's going to be another early exit from the season for the New York Giants. But going forward, it's going to be a really fun offseason, that's for sure. It's a crucial one for Joe Shane. It's a crucial one for Brian Dable. They got to get it right. They got to turn things around next year to really extend their lifetime with the New York Giants. And I'm hopeful that they make the right decisions this offseason. I still have some good confidence in the 2 guys that are running this team, and 3 guys even, Brandon Brown, assistant GM. I think that this is a really good front office and a good coaching staff, and I'm excited to dive into all this stuff on the offseason right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we will catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.